Hi, I'm Batsheva Frankel from Overthrowing Education, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Remind me before we jump into our topic. Did you buy into Zunes?
Yes,
you a Zune
I was.
listener? I thought you were. Okay, it's always a picture of like a hard-working millennial.
You've got to have a whole subunit of why Socrates has any relevance to Liechtenstein. You know, like
somebody somewhere's like, we have them in Liechtenstein, you monster. Welcome to the High Tech Podcast with Will and Josh. Will, you're there?
Who?
Hello.
Me?
Hello?
Oh, yeah, present.
Hello. There, hey, present. There we go. Class attendance taken. Done. Nailed it.
Class of 100% attendance.
Yes, exactly. Don't worry. We're tracking the rest of you through analytics attendance. No, I'm just joking.
Dark.
Yeah, it got a little dark. Big brother. Anyway, High Tech Podcast. Super excited to be back for another week. Episode 58. We got some fun stuff planned as always, or at least we think they're fun.
We enjoy it.
Yeah, we enjoy it.
Some of you listen still, so
why,
I guess
why we keep coming back.
Someone else enjoys it.
Either that, or we're just like I just accidentally fall into my seat, and I'm like, oh look, there's a mic here.
What do I do now?
How did Will end up here? Oh, that's crazy.
Is it Tuesday?
No. Yeah, is it Tuesday? No, it's
It's actually Wednesday.
Wall breaking. We did some crazy different stuff this week. Anyway, super excited to jump in. Well, how's your week, man? Before I jump into our intro, how's your week going?
It's been good. We've been a little busy, a little here and there. We are. This is 2022 is the year of going places for my household. So we're all over the place. I'm about to leave for Florida, Denver next month. International at the end of the year.
I thought you were gonna be like Florida, Denver. I was like, that's not.
Yeah, Florida, Denver, Florida.
The Denver beach. I love it. So
really
good.
Hot and mountainy down there.
I love the rocky beaches. They're really great.
Great for the feet, really therapeutic.
Yeah, they really. Wow, we are horrible at jokes. That's cool. That's good. I just wanted to see, so that we don't talk about that stuff
Hey,
before
buddy,
the podcast.
how are you doing?
How am I doing? That's a dangerous question.
No.
Well, finals is basically over, so I'm
Nice.
not, class is done for now, so that's cool. I don't have to, I do have some grading I need to finish, which will probably happen tomorrow night, but,
don't you
not
love
probably.
it? Becoming the grader.
It's going to happen tomorrow night.
It teaches you so much.
Yeah, so I mean, it's good. It's fun times. We're also about to go on vacation in a couple weeks.
Nice.
To the Denver beaches. No, I'm not sure. That's not where we're going. We're going to New Jersey, Avalon.
Yes.
Different places we go.
Lovely.
Yeah. Anyway, this episode, we're not talking about beaches. We're talking about tech. But before we do, just our normal little spiel. If you're listening to us and you're like, man, I wish I could find these guys somewhere. And you know what? You are in luck. We are located at places on the internet. So you can find us on Twitter at High Tech Podcast. Go check out our Twitter if you haven't up to this point. We'd love to connect with you. We like to actually connect with the people who are listening. A couple of you have been connecting with us in different ways on social media here recently. So go check us out there. Subscribe if you haven't done that. I have friends who run a video and podcast, and they actually have analytics on the number of people subscribed and not, and they always remind people.
Oh, wow.
I don't, but I'm going to make up a number. 50% of you are not subscribed.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. And then you can email us at inbox@hightechpod.us as well. Either on Twitter or the email, you can send us a wonderful picture. So we've been doing this a lot in season 2 now. I planned for the last episode. I'm going to be honest. Didn't plan for this one as much.
Something came together here.
So Will, give me an animal.
A cat safely a cactus.
Ah, okay. That's good.
Safely.
I like the safely.
I don't
Note
want
that. We don't want any gruesome dead cat photos.
Gore here, not impaled on it. This is not Game of
not
Thrones.
Impaled, none of that. So let's do a cat on a cactus for this episode. Shoot us that picture either on Twitter or at our email. And then finally, if you didn't know, we also have a website, at dot us.
We're struggling, folks.
Yeah.
We're struggling. And you know what?
Pod.
It was just probably hard for Josh because he said it wrong. It's hightechpod.us.
No, it did not say it wrong. It's hightechpod.us. Check it out. We always have an episode page with resources, fun things. Will nice faces are there saying hi. Go check out the website over there. Whew. Okay, that's enough. Let's talk about real things, not introductory things. So what are we chatting about today?
It's a small conversation, Josh.
Yeah.
Little.
One could say micro,
Mini.
if you will.
Micro indeed.
Mini. Yeah. We're talking about the little iPods. No, I'm just
Oh my gosh, those days. My first
we
I'm
are
pretty
actually
sure
talking about iPods now.
my first MP3 player was what was called a cube. It was literally the size of a die. It was like a little bit bigger than a die, and you could just plug your headphones into it, and that was it. And the headphones that it came with actually were a necklace. So you wore it on your neck, and you had this little cube.
Cute. Remind me, before we jump into our topic, did you buy into Zunes?
Yes,
you a Zune
I was.
I thought you were. Okay.
Zune
Everybody's like,
Zune
"What's
2.
a Zune?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, I know, right? What is a Zune?"
Wow. Yeah. What's an iPod?
Yeah, well, actually, they discontinued iPod support
Exactly.
this week. So,
exactly.
Yeah, it's done.
Get
Everybody's like, "No, not my mini." Anyway, back to small conversations. We're talking
learning.
micro learning. We wanted to chat about micro learning this week. Now, Will, we've brought this up before on the High Tech Podcast. We've talked about this. This came up, I think, most recently in the Accelerated series. I forget if it was, I think it was when Justin joined us.
Yeah.
We started talking about this idea that like people think of accelerated learning as like they make arguments for micro learning and then therefore make arguments for accelerated learning. We were like, those are totally not the same things. And we explained why, but then we were like, you know what? We didn't really do that well enough because that was not the main topic. And we were like, we should talk more about this idea of micro learning.
Topic for another episode, right? If we don't go down a rabbit hole one day, we just will some other day. It's that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Simple.
They're all over the place.
And right, the stage is set. We know what traditional learning is. 16 weeks, 6 weeks. But even beyond that time element, an entire course is going to have just lots and lots of content. I mean, it's not meant to be something you consume in 5 minutes. It's not even something you're meant to be consuming in a week. A regular course takes months because of how much is in it. Micro learning, I think, is the opposite. Josh and I talked a little bit about this early, and we beforehand. We want to make sure we're very clear about this. Micro learning is not taking your traditional course or your 1 hour lecture and chunking it down into smaller pieces.
Yeah, or at least we don't think it is.
Some people
don't might
believe
disagree
that it
with
is.
us on that, but I think there's a difference between micro learning and chunking. And just like to talk about what we mean by chunking, we've referenced it before, but chunking it's a common thing used in the design field, like this idea of just like taking content. Maybe I have an hour lecture, chunking that out into 15-minute blocks or smaller units, right? That's
it's still
chunking.
An hour video.
It's still at the end of the day an hour lesson.
Segments.
It's just been broken out in segments, and maybe you throw some activities in between for reflection and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's still a unit of content or lesson that just got broken out into sections.
Smaller
now.
Units,
right?
And that's
what's micro learning though?
That's not it.
If that's
right?
not chunking.
So micro learning is designing the smaller units of instruction. It's still small. It's all still about time and smallness, but it's about doing that from the get-go. Build it to be small. So sometimes they can become a little indiscernible when we've chunked something down and put reflection questions in and knowledge checks. That actually gets closer to micro learning, but the idea for it in general is just to design it to be micro from the beginning. This is not going to be the Duolingo app episode. I've told myself several times already in my head, do not make this the Duolingo app episode. We already have an episode on Duolingo. Love it. But Duolingo is an excellent example of micro learning, right? You can sit down and do one lesson of instruction in 2 to 5 minutes. And that 2 to 5 minutes will have a number of different types of little activities. You might speak, you might read, you might write. And it's done. That's it. That is the unit. That's the lesson of instruction. It's not necessarily about the bigger, broader thing. And you're not meant to do it over time. It's meant to be done at one, like sit down while you're drinking your coffee between something, right? And do the lesson, and then it's done.
Yeah. Well, and to get us off Duolingo, although we'll keep coming back to it, because let's just be upfront here. Duolingo is, I would put up at like one of the pedestals of an example of microlearning. They took microlearning, they realized this idea, which I think when we define microlearning, we're talking about this idea of like taking these complex ideas, breaking them down into kind of these standalone units of study. Okay, like the standalone units that you're working on. They're lessons. They are contained in that small group. Duolingo is exactly this idea. It takes complex language ideas and breaks them down into standalone lessons that you can complete on your phone in the short time that you're there and have learned something, have done something actively. Another example of this is, I had an app for a while that would teach you how to do like CSS and HTML in a micro format. And so what it would do is,
what's that app? That sounds awesome.
First lesson. I have to pull it up. It was pretty cool. The first, and some of it was like super simple stuff I already knew, but it was, like for instance, I would jump in and it would ask me to it would teach me how to do bolding in HTML. Right. So like it would bring that up. I would lay out the bolding in the app. I'd set up all the HTML. And by the end of that little micro lesson, I would have some text, right? I'd be done. The next lesson might teach me how to do like some italicized or build on that bolded stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's breaking down the complex idea of HTML coding into manageable, contained lessons of things that you need to learn that will build on top of each other towards a more complex solution down the road.
Right.
Like maybe an actual website or a full page that I've built through HTML. But at the end of the day, they found ways to break down stuff and not actually condense, but find the kind of smaller skills you needed to build on top of to create the bigger thing. And I think that's the idea. You're building on these smaller skills.
Like Spanish, is Spanish. I can't not teach you clothing, verbs, nouns, alphabet, pronunciation. I have to teach you all those things to teach you Spanish. But Duolingo takes lesson 1 and teaches you greetings. And then it's like that's all you're getting in lesson 1. And you might get more greetings later on and more advanced things later on, right? But like that lesson teach you greeting just like that HTML thing teaches you bold. And then once you've got bold, once you've got greetings, it takes you on to the next step and the next step. And that's where microlearning also doesn't mean just a 3-minute training. It's not like I just go grab a YouTube video and that's microlearning. Like I learned the one thing I want off of microlearning. Microlearning might have or could be established in a broader curriculum with many sets of goals or, very, very specific goals. I think something that would stand out to me, though, about microlearning is that each instance of learning should have a learning goal. Like, that's ironic. Like, usually we look at a course and we're like, let's get it down to like 3 to 5 learning goals. Like, I've seen some courses with like 16. It's like, that's too many goals for an entire 16-week course. You don't need a goal per week. We want to do broader goals and then do terminal objectives underneath of it. Right. But in a microlearning sense, like that lesson 1, the goal there is learn bold. The goal there is learn greetings, right? And so that's a very singular, easy goal to just say, boom, I actually think I can do this skill or this concept now.
Yeah, the point is you're picking out smaller goals that lead towards the bigger goals at the end of the day. And then the essential idea is you're taking this complex thing that you have to do and thinking, how can I break out this complex thing in more simple, smaller things that can build together towards something. Now, I want to talk about just for a second where I think microlearning comes from. This idea has always kind of existed, but really I think when we look at it, microlearning became popular because everybody was like, people have cell phones now.
Yes.
And you always hear this argument. Those who are like super big on microlearning are like, yeah, but tech is changing. People have mobile phones now, so we need to do microlearning that they can do because the person is changing.
They're on their train. They're between things.
Their train. Yeah, it's always a picture.
It's the going adult.
A hard-working millennial with like a brown. Let's just talk about this for a hot second. With like a brown
suitcase,
satchel bag, leather satchel bag. They got like their coffee in one hand. They've got like a flannel
and their
or something.
AirPods are in, and
they got their AirPods in. They got a beanie on, and they're on some kind of cool train that looks like they're in Japan and New York at the same time.
Even John can learn while he's on the go.
Even John can learn, and then he's there, and he's like, "I'm a master now."
Yep.
And like that's not wrong. There is a truth to this, that we do have this dynamic where
Micro-learning makes that possible.
Yes,
but...
micro-learning makes that possible. But here's the spiel we're going to go into, and then I think we're going to talk a little bit about where micro-learning is useful. I want to be very open about Will and I's perspective on this, which is that I do not think micro-learning is the end-all solution for new learning. Okay? Yeah. There's a micro-learning is a hot topic, and there are some who believe that this is the future of learning. That, like, if we don't do micro-learning, we're living in the past. Like, we need to do this united learning across the board.
And a lot of people say it's the only way we're going to get their attention today.
Yes, it's the only way we're going to get their attention. We have a good friend of ours, Justin, who's been on the podcast. He's been reading stuff about this. I agree with him. I've read some stuff on this, which is that I should also say my other hot take. This is not a theology or philosophy podcast, but if it was, I would go into depth about how the fact that I don't think we've gotten shorter attention spans. There's just more things competing for our attention. And if it's something somebody actually cares about, they will watch it for 2 hours. Okay? Because that's the reality.
My wife was surprised last night when, yeah, I love you, honey. You're never going to listen to this. When
this is the one episode she listens to,
right? In front of her, right? There was a baseball game on. We were at her aunt's place. We're doing whatever. In front of her, we're reading the same book series right now. I started this book series. I got to book 8 or 9. She picked it up and joined me in book 10, like in a minute, because she reads so fast. But I started reading in front of her last night at 33% of the book and finished it in front of her. And it took me like maybe an hour and a half, or maybe 2 hours at the most. And she like actually remarked on that afterwards. She's like, I've never seen you read like that. And I was like, yeah, because I never sit down for 2 hours to read. But when I do, I can crush a book from 33% to done if I really want to. I can sustain my attention on it. I just rarely do that. You know, like that's the learner that's available to us today. We can do the 2 hours of instruction or reading or focus, but we don't.
At the end of the day, what my push for microlearning would be this. I think microlearning is helpful, but I think if you're going to microlearning simply off of the perspective that we need to do microlearning to keep people's attention, there's gonna be somebody who's gonna. Well, this might be the hot take that I finally say that makes somebody angry. I think you're wrong. Like I'm just gonna be blunt. Like I don't. That's not the reason we should do microlearning. It's like we're trying to trick people into learning. It's like if I do it in short enough bursts, maybe they'll get it. No, I think microlearning is useful if you can break a complex idea into simpler steps that will build on top of each other. Microlearning works so well when it is done with goals in mind. When it's done in the way of like, I want to leverage microlearning here because I want to break down this complex idea or skill in a way that can get people learning. And so I think that's kind of my perspective on microlearning and where we should be using it. And this is why I think it comes up with languages a lot to Duolingo. I think, Will, you would be a proponent that this is a huge way of learning languages.
And it just respects that, like languages, coding, certain skills like that have very foundational things that you need to know before you can know other stuff. And it's very clear that you know that stuff and that it makes it easier to know this feels like this is like vague booking right now. But if you're to try and turn the history of philosophy into microlearning, like, it's going to be a long microlearning. You've got a lot of people in philosophy. You've got centuries of philosophers that you have to address if you want to do that. So that's no easier than doing that course in face-to-face in a traditional 16-week session.
Aside from the fact that you have to
microlearning doesn't make that easier to do.
Yeah, you have to create complex connections in that type of philosophy course
with
other ideas. And there's certain ways where like I just don't think you can break that up in microlearning well and do the ideas.
The irony might be, if you do manage to do it, your microlearning is actually going to be so much longer because to like do the section on Socrates and then to do the section on Aristotle and then to do the section on Plato, cool. You can do a little like 5 minutes on each of those, but that's the ancient Greeks. We have philosophers in the 20th century that are still relevant and make us think about things today. You've got thousands of years of people to put in there. And then if you want to make any of the connections between Socrates I don't know, in like famous philosophers from Liechtenstein, if there are any, you've got to have a whole subunit of why Socrates has any relevance to Liechtenstein, you know? Like,
somebody somewhere's like, we have them in Liechtenstein, you monster.
We both knew a doctor at in our institution who was who would always use that reference.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so I think it depends. I think at the end of the day, micro learning, it depends on what you're using it for. And I think the way it can be used in many different ways. It's just, I think there's this misconception that it's going to be quicker if you do micro learning, and that like micro learning is the way to go with everything. And I don't think it necessarily is. I think in languages, it's absolutely helpful. We have a Duolingo that does that. We talk about coding. There's blocks of things you can build on. I think about even other stuff. Like if I'm thinking through, like my class teaches people how to do an interpretation of text. Like there's different ways I can break that complex idea into smaller ideas that they have to build on top of each other, like in build that out. And I could probably build those into micro lessons that teach them and build together towards something.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's different ways you can use it. I don't think it's the end all be all and future of education. I think it's a method that we should implement and should look to. But we don't need to be converting every single course into a micro learn.
I think we probably feel similarly about this as we did about gamification, right? Like,
yes,
it's a great thing. There are great methods and features in it, but it's not the thing.
Yeah,
you know, like there's elements to it that are good and things that we need to be careful about.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it into play. So that is our thoughts on micro learning. Now, we'll say this. Let's say, Will, you want to do some micro learning. Say you want to bring it in, and people are like, well, how do I do this? Is there a tool out there that could help me?
If only there was like some education app to get this done.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Oh, there is. It's called
EdApp.
They're like, that sounds made up. I know. Yeah. Listen, EdApp, if you're listening.
They didn't try very hard for that one.
I love you guys, and I think you got a fantastic tool. Naming-wise, kind of feels like you threw a dart at the board and just kind of were like, what should we call this?
I've seen bands with better names.
It works in it's like a band being like, our name is
The Band.
The Band. Anyway, sorry.
That's
yes,
pretty meta. And I kind of like.
Let's talk about. Yeah, it's a little bit crazy.
This is one of those tools. Ironically, I think Josh has probably got like some better like functional and technical insights. But what I do know about it is that it is a platform. You can use it for free. It's got some good limited features, freemium setup there. That's designed to create micro learning. It wants you to. The features are set there. It's got time limits and stuff like that to keep things limited. Technically you can make micro learning in any LMS. You can make it without a learning management system. You can just tell your students, do this activity in 5 minutes. That's, micro learning. But this platform's designed to make that work, to make that happen. And so with the free element of it, it is technically a learning management system, but it's built to be fast. It's built to be short form, and it's built for mobile. So, if your LMS isn't quite meeting your needs there, isn't really, mobile friendly, like, hey, still going to say it, Canvas is not that really great of a mobile app experience. It really just loads Canvas mobile in the mobile app. Like,
no, it's that. That's 100% true.
Major issues. Just make a website. Don't make the app.
Problem with mobile stuff, and the reason LMSs fail in this a lot of times is because it has to be so simple. You have such a small screen to utilize, and from a user experience standpoint, we want to make it easy to look at. We want to make it easy to progress through. Right. And to that point, with EdApp, I mean, Will and I are gonna lie. It's like Will and I have built multiple courses through this. We've been playing with the tool.
Yeah.
I will say this: what's really cool about it, they do some free features to it. There's some paid stuff, but with the free features, you can author a course in it. And the point is like Will said, you basically kind of do it in this slide method. Which is you kind of create these different slides that people can go through. Now, when I'm saying slides, I'm not talking like just PowerPoint. You can build content slides. You can build like concept slides that are literally like, drag and drop things in, fill in the blank sentences,
multiple choice questions,
like multiple choice, strike out. There's different options you can do. The point is it's interactive, which is another thing I really like about this. They're doing a very interactive idea to what they're doing. You can add multiple choice questions. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do in this slide feature, as they call it.
A standout element of their course design, in my opinion, is that most of the content is almost directly paired with a check, a knowledge check, an interaction. So there's a lot of pages that end up in course, in Canvas courses and like LMS courses, right, that are just text, just walls of text, or just videos, right? And then maybe the next page is a quiz, or after a couple pages is a quiz, but like there's something in our learning management systems today that really separates the knowledge check from the knowledge itself. And this is designed to put it right there in front of you. As you're learning, you're going to get quiz questions, you're going to get fill in the blanks. It's going to be interactive as you go. Yeah. And, like any good app, it looks good. I really love the screenshots. I really love the design of it, the end product, but it's reusable, right? That's the thing that's valuable about any knowledge check, about any quiz question, stuff like that. If you're going to make a quiz or put up videos there, you want it to be easy to make it, but you need to be easy to take it again and again and again. I've been working with my one buddy, teaching him some type of.
I want to quote that for a second. Sorry, Will's thing. It needs to be easy to make it and easy to take it. Okay, I don't know if you know you did this, but you just created a great catchphrase.
Make it and
take it. I'm gonna hold on to it. Anyway, sorry.
No,
Taekwondo. Moving.
I'm trying to help my buddy learn. Like I've been teaching him in the pandemic, right? We got bored, and so here, come on over, grab a belt, and you're gonna learn martial arts. But in my style, there's actually a lot of information that is historical, contextual. There's some core tenets and stuff like that. There's knowledge to learn. So we're mostly working out, but he needs to learn this stuff. And really the best way for him to learn that stuff without just more class time with me is to take little quizzes like this. Like I actually made him quizzes so he can just retake the quizzes over and over and over again to answer these questions about like, what's this pattern called? Who's the founder? When was our style created? What's our 5 tenets? What are the meanings of our 5 tenets?
You're such a learning designer.
You know, when it works, it works. And this is the kind of thing that can, like, I had to, make that work with a free account that I don't have anymore, but still have, kind of thing, with a platform that doesn't know I still have the account. But EdApp, now that I see EdApp, like I should just use this. Like,
you should give it a try.
Done what I was trying to do there.
Because the cool thing with here is like you can add in a content slide or a concept slide, and then drop in like survey questions or other questions, or they have like a relationship section where you can like drag and drop things to show relationships between stuff. And like a lot of their examples are like words or tech training, because it's very like
it is corporate centric,
very corporate. But I could see this being used to like do quick lessons and connect complex ideas together, or do different stuff in here that I think could be very helpful. So, and
some of their demo information shows like converting slides in, so like imports them and converts them, and it's about serving red wine. Yeah. It's literally teaching how to serve red wine. I endorse this product. I think this is good.
So go check it out. It's called EdApp. You can go to edapp.com to check out the app. Now I'm going to make a promise on the episode so I can hold myself to this. If you're listening to this episode and you have not gone to our website, you are missing out. Okay, so I've told Will that I'm going to use this app to create a small micro Tanks 101 learning module. Okay? Now, I'm not going to promise it's going to teach you a lot about tanks, but I can promise that you'll have fun doing it. So if you're listening to this right now, you can only get access to that on our website. We're not going to link it on the episode, so go check it out at hightechpod.us. If you go there and you don't find it, it means I failed, and you can make fun of me next week.
and yes, there will just be tomfoolery.
Tomfoolery instead. You'll click on the link and it'll be a rickroll. I don't know. If I fail, that might be what it does. You just have to.
The High Tech Podcast is never going to give you up.
Yep, or let you down. So on that note, go check it out at EdApp. It's seems like a cool tool. I'm excited to try it out and mess around with it as I'm creating my stuff. So, yeah.
I hope the irony is not lost on you, listener, that our micro learning episode is actually shorter. We want to make the point that this is what it is, right? Like, there's not too much to this. You have to design it intentionally. You have to design it small, but it's not about chunking large stuff down into small stuff. It's about making small learning content, checking knowledge often, making it engaging, visually engaging, make them short videos, make them short interactions. That is microlearning. And I think that there's a good place for microlearning inside of traditional learning. You can use microlearning every week of your course. You could turn all your lectures in your course into microlearning, but that is not chunking them down. That would be reimagining your lectures and putting them out there in new micro formats. You put them in there with EdApp, and every week you could have these little lecture knowledge checks that take your students anywhere from 3 to 15 minutes in total across a couple different lessons, for instance. Boom, you've just engaged microlearning inside of your traditional 16-week course. That's great.
Exactly.
It's good.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. As usual, as always, find us on Twitter at High Tech Podcast. Send us the image that Josh has so wonderfully requested. What was it?
You're the one who requested it.
I requested it.
Yeah, cat on a cactus.
Cat on a cactus.
A nice cat on a cactus. No murder
no gore,
cats.
no
no death.
no
okay?
murder cats.
I don't want the Friday the 13th version of a cat dead on a cactus. Okay, I want
Josh's wife would be so upset with us if you kill a cat for this.
She would not speak to me again. That would be your fault. So don't do that.
Amazing. But of course, last but not least, head to hightechpod.us to make sure that you see that tank course, that you see our resources, and that you share that with others. We want to make sure that these resources help others in their classrooms and their classroom experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Will, what's coming up next?
Thank you. Episode 59 is already ready for you. We're so excited. It's going to be a conversation with one of Josh's coworkers, a friend of ours, Robin Jeffers, about designing courses, and specifically our app for that experience is going to be GimKit. If you haven't heard of that one, can be pretty fun to use, free tool that's out there. So tune in to episode 59 next week. Until then, continue joining us, please, from week to week as we learn what it is to harness technology in the physical and digital classroom in the micro and long form. Until next time, see ya.
See ya.